want to talk about accessories today, and probably the most useful accessory that you can probably have as a photographer, except maybe your camera strap or a little camera bag, but that's the tripod. Now, I have too many tripods. I have 6. I'll go into that in a second, but I think most people do need a tripod or maybe 2. Let me explain that to you. My name is Rob Skeoch. I'm a career photographer. I shot film, and then I shot digital, then I worked at Sony, and now later in my life I've gone back to just mostly shooting film. But today I just want to talk about tripods, and that's irrelevant if you're a digital photographer or a film photographer. Here's why I think you need a tripod. The whole purpose of the tripod is to hold the camera steady. It's useful to kind of compose, that it keeps the camera in the same spot. That only makes sense. But it allows you to have a complete choice of shutter speeds because the camera's not moving, so you can use those longer shutter speeds, a quarter of a second or 1 second or 5 minutes, whatever it is. So I think everyone should probably maybe have access to a tripod. It doesn't have to be in your bag. You don't have to carry it everywhere, but there are going to be times when you want to use it. And unless you're maybe a street photographer, that's the only genre that I can think of where you just would never really need a tripod. Everything else, landscape, I would use a tripod. Still life, studio work, portraits, I would use a tripod. Not all the time maybe, but I think you need a tripod. So as I mentioned, I have 6. Well, that's ridiculous. You don't need 6. I'll tell you why I have 6 in a minute, but here's the first one you need. Now, this is a mini tripod, right? This is super small, folds up. You can kind of take it anywhere. Doesn't expand, a very simple ball head kind of structure. It would hold a 35 mil. You could probably put like a 2 1/4 on it. You definitely couldn't put a large format on it, but it's just something you can keep in your bag if you're traveling, super light, inexpensive, and just allows you to set the camera up. Now, it's not super solid, so when you lock it down, it might move a little bit because the camera's heavy, but it allows you to set the camera up and do those longer exposures. Again, probably with the self-timer or some kind of a remote fire, because this is not super stable, but this is the tripod that most people need, I think. Now, I have 2 of them. I have this one, and I have this one that holds my mic. It is also a regular tripod. And this one's a Manfrotto. This one's like super old. I don't even know what brand it is, and they probably don't exist anymore anyways. But this one is a Manfrotto, and this one seems to work fine, and I'm just using it for my mic. So it's super portable. You can put it in your camera bag. You can travel with it. So I think you need at least 1 tripod, and if you're only going to get 1, maybe it's this travel style tripod. It allows you to take pictures in newer locations, different locations, super small, super light, just gets the camera steady enough to take the photo. So that's the first tripod you need, is a little travel tripod. Now, as I said, I've got 6 tripods. 2 of them are these travel ideas, and 1 of them is just for my mic. And I probably didn't pay for this. As a pro photographer going to different conventions and working for Sony, I got a certain amount of things for free, as all the pros did at some point. You got some freebies here and there. Now, so this is the second size of tripod. This is still a travel tripod. This is probably what most people need, although maybe having these 2, you should get something a little bit bigger than this. This is, again, a Manfrotto, and I didn't pay for this, but it's a Manfrotto BeFree, and it kind of works like this. It's got the center column. Not all tripods have a center column, right? But this one's not too bad, a little more sturdy, obviously taller, obviously bigger. So this is not a bad choice. This is a Manfrotto BeFree. Now, I've had a couple of these. Manfrotto gave them to me. I did not buy these, but they're a good tripod. This is a good suggestion. I've had a couple of them. I actually use them for my underwater work sometimes. So if you're underwater diving, scuba diving, and you've got a video camera set up, I'll take this tripod down with my housing and my lights and everything. Maybe I'm on a wreck, or maybe I'm like not on the reef, but near the reef, or there's some kind of fish that I know is going to be there, and I'm going to set up a tripod. So I've had a few of these. Sometimes after I use them for a couple of weeks, down south or in the Philippines, I left them there. They're not heavy, but the salt water beats them up a little bit, and then I'm always close to the limit on my travel weight on the bags. So I have had these before, used them for a couple of weeks, scuba diving with them every day, and then just left them at the resort or gave them to someone who worked there, whatever. But they're not too bad. I like them. It has a quick release. Tripods never used to have quick releases, but they do now. So you put this plate on your camera, and it allows you to clip in and clip out. So this is the Manfrotto BeFree. Again, it's a travel tripod. It's not too bad. It's minimal of what you could kind of get away with as a tripod if you want to fully extend it and use it. Most of my experience with this has been underwater, which is weird and surprising. Now, this is my fourth tripod, and this is a tripod that I would have. This is what I would suggest you get, something like this. You kind of need this tripod and then maybe the mini tripod. So let me tell you about this. This is a Gito. This is an old Gito. I bought this maybe 1985. I had just started working at newspapers. It's a Gito Reporter, it was called. It's aluminum. Now, the Gito tripods now are carbon fiber. People love carbon fiber. It's light. It's strong. Carbon fiber. It's fantastic. It's plastic. It doesn't get cold in the winter. It's wonderful. I never liked it. The problem with carbon fiber is that it's too light. What? Isn't that what you want? Well, it's what you want, but not always. Like if you're using a large format camera and you've got a dark cloth and you've got that attached to the camera, it's basically a kite now. A light tripod, it'll blow over. So I actually prefer something with a little bit of weight. You got to carry it up the mountain, but I actually like something a little heavier than carbon fiber, and I like this old Gito Reporter. If I was buying a tripod, if someone said, hey, what tripod should I buy? I would buy one of these. You'd have to get it off eBay. Gito hasn't made aluminum tripods in decades, and I bought this in '84. Now, this one has a ball head. This is the second head. I actually bought it with a different head on it, and that kind of wore out and got banged up and bent and stuff in travel. But I've literally taken this around the world. I took it, I shot for Doctors Without Borders in Cambodia in the 80s and Haiti and Middle East, or not Middle East, Central America, and this tripod always came with me. The Gito Reporter. It's got a couple of leg extensions. My wife always hated them because she hated these sort of turn and screw as compared to a clamp. It has a center column. This one actually has a double center column right there, and then you can go higher here. Now, it's not going to really work for you full height, right? This is not going to, you're not going to be able to, you're not going to need a ladder to use this. This is just sort of like a comfortable height. With tripods, it's weird. If you want it super big and it's heavy and it's more than you need for most situations. So this is, if I was buying a tripod, I would buy this Gito Reporter. And again, it's a Gito ball head, and it's got a quick release on the ball head, standard Gito quick release. So that's fantastic. That's what you want. You want a quick release. I'm not a big ball head fan, which is weird because I just said I had two of them, and these are all ball heads. So maybe I'm a big ball head fan. I don't know. But I'll show you something better in a second. But anyways, this is not the current modern Gito. This is the old school Gito. This is what Gito made its reputation on. So I bought it in, like I said, '85. So what's that? 40 years. I've had this 40 years working professionally as a photographer, traveled with it around the world. It's been flawless. It's been flawless. 40 years. What do you expect? And it was expensive. It was probably 40 years ago when money was real. Like things were, you didn't make any money. It was probably $350. I remember going into the store. I bought a Bellark camera in Hamilton, Ontario, and I remember going in there and ordering it, and it probably took 8 or 9 months to get. I think someone swam it over from France. They were made in France back then. Maybe Gito is still made in France, I'm not sure. But they're not made out of aluminum anymore. Now they're carbon fiber. People love the carbon fiber. But I'll tell you, this tripod, of all the equipment I have, there's no piece of equipment that I have from this era that I still use. This is my main go-to tripod for travel. I would be taking this on a trip if I was going on a trip today. Gito Reporter. There's a couple other styles. Again, this has got 3 leg pieces. You can get it with a 2. You can probably get it with a 4. You can get a tripod from that era. Again, you'd be buying these used on eBay that has thinner legs And then there was a thicker line as well. I think that was called Studex or Studio or something like that. Studex, I think. And they were thicker legs, so it would hold a heavier camera. But I've shot 8x10 with this, so this one is certainly adequate for a Hasselblad, or a 2 1/4 that you're using now. It would be overkill for a simple camera, but for a Nikon F3 with a motor drive, this is perfect. This is just exactly what you want. And this has been a workhorse for 40 years. Fantastic piece of kit. If you only had one tripod, this would be it. But I also suggest you have this and the little tabletop tripod. So now where do we go? As I said, if you only had one tripod, get one like the Gito. I love it. You need the tabletop one. Now we're going into a weird area. This is a large format tripod. Years ago, I had 2 mail order businesses. I had a business called the Rangefinder Store, which was online. I sold stuff for Leicas and I sold Zeiss lenses and things like that. So everything to do with the rangefinder. And I had a second online store, which I had for years and years, called Big Camera Workshops. And I did tour around Canada teaching people how to shoot on 4x5, but I also sold 8x10 cameras, 4x5, all the films, all the weird papers, lenses, everything to do with large format. When film wasn't popular, I was still importing and selling large format stuff. There were very few people, but someone had to look after them, so that's what I did. It's probably a bigger business now that I'm out of it. Anyways, one of the brands I carried was Berlebach tripods, and I had them custom stained. So for cameras, I sold, my main line was a brand called Ebony. Ebony was a Japanese wooden camera company made out of ebony, and they were spectacular. They've closed up because everyone's retired. These were like craftsmen working in the back room kind of guys, and they made these amazing cameras. If you ever just want to Google ebony cameras, and they were magnificent. They've closed up, and they're crazy money now. An 8x10, I think when I sold my 8x10, I got $8,000 for it. They're probably 12, 15,000 now, if you could find a really clean 8x10 one. Anyways, so they were a beautiful either ebony wood or mahogany. And I would import these Berlebach tripods from Berlebach in Germany and get them custom stained to be the same color as the ebony cameras. That's my point. So this was a brown one. They came in brown. They came in like a safari green. No one bought. Probably birders bought that. And then they came in plain. I think they call it naked, where it was just like the plain wood color. But I would get them custom stained to be this dark wood, and it would match the ebony cameras. Now, there was an American tripod company. This goes way back. This is like Ansel Adams and Edward Weston days. Reese tripods, and they made wood tripods, and they were very expensive. Like they would be, I don't know, let's say they're $800 or $900 years ago. So people loved them. They were the old school. They were kind of like a surveyor tripod, actually, but Reese tripods. Now, I went to their site the other day. Apparently, they're out of business, but they still have a website, but there's no way to contact them. So I've heard that they're done. So that was Reese's tripods, and they were expensive. But I was bringing in these Berlebach tripods from Germany, and there's an advantage to wood. First off, where I live, it gets cold. The metal tripods get cold in the winter, but this doesn't get as cold. But the main reason that you use wood is the vibration. So a metal tripod, a plastic or carbon fiber tripod, when it vibrates longer than wood. Wood kind of cushions the vibration. And I've seen examples at trade shows where people would have like a little thing of water on top of the tripod head, and they would ting it, and then you could see how quickly the ripples kind of ended. And with a wooden tripod, it was immediately. So there is definitely an advantage to a wood tripod as far as taking pictures. There's an advantage in the cold. There's an advantage, of course, aesthetically, because they're beautiful, and people love to work with wood. It's like having a nice, wooden guitar or whatever. People just love to be around wood. So this is a Berlebach. Now they came in different sizes. This is the 3000 series. So this wasn't the longest ones. They made like 2000 series, a 1000 series, a 3000 series, and a 4000 series. And that was the length of the legs. And basically all of them were what I would call two-leg, right? So two-part. There was some that were three. You could get a 3 extension, but for the most part, they were this two-part idea. Now, this one is a basic tripod. It doesn't have a center column. So if you want to adjust, 2 inches, you've got to pick your camera up, extend the legs 2 inches. So it's a little bit inconvenient. They did make it with a center column, but it was real expensive. They did make it also with a center column and a ball head so that you could adjust. You wouldn't put your camera directly on it, but you could level it so that the tripod was level, and then the head would be level. And if you're doing panoramas, you wouldn't be out of alignment. So different models, but this is the basic one. And I've got what's called a 3-way head on it. This is a Gito tripod head. This is the best head that I've had from Gito. Like I showed a couple of ball heads, and I seem to use ball heads a lot, but this is better. This 3-way idea is better. So, and you could argue you only need a 2-way if you're shooting square, but anyways, this is a 3-way head. So I can turn it, I can go this way and up and down, right? And it's so convenient. It's so well made. I wish I had another one of these heads, but anyways, this is a wonderful product. This Gito head, 3-way head on this wooden Berlebach tripod. Now, where are you going to get a wooden Berlebach tripod now that, like I was importing them? There is no distribution in Canada now. They're made in Germany. You'd probably want to pick one up when you're in Europe. You would probably maybe order one and have it delivered somewhere in Europe and then pick it up there, because you're not going to want to ship this across the ocean. If you're shipping half a container of them, it's one thing, but if you're shipping one, it would be too expensive. So this is the Berlebach. This is a great tripod. I used it for 8x10 when I bought it. I've shot 5x7 on it. I've shot 4x5. And if I was going to go out today shooting with the Hasselblad, this is probably what I would bring. I like the little Gito more, but in day-to-day use, I tend to use this one more, if that makes sense. I like the 3-way head better. I like it being wood. It's taller, a little more flexibility. I mean, the legs go out, but then you can change it so the legs go out straighter, right? Or you can change it so the legs go out even straighter yet. Maybe I went too many clicks, but you get the idea. Anyways, this is a fantastic product. This is a great tripod to use. Wonderful to use. And now let me just talk about the last tripod. So this is number 5. This is a nice tripod. Now, this is a funny tripod. This, again, is a Berlebach. As I had mentioned, I had that business, Big Camera Workshops, and when I closed the business, I ended up I had the tripod that I used, my own tripod, the one I just showed you, but I had a brand new one that I just never sold. So I have this Berlebach. It's a little bit longer. So that previous one was a 3000 series. This is a 4000 series. It has a little bit different part to the head. It doesn't have a tripod head. It would, though. If you're using it, I need to buy a tripod head for it. I mean, maybe I'll leave one in my car and have one in the studio, kind of a thing. I just happen to have it left. So this is my 6th tripod, the final tripod. Again, a Berlebach. And basically, in the next 30 years, I'll wear out my other Berlebach, and then I'll have this as a backup. Maybe that's how it makes sense. But again, this Berlebach tripod, this is just sort of like old stock from when I actually had a retail store. But I don't want to give it up because you cannot replace it. Where are you going to get one now? Anyways, that's everything I know about tripods. I'll tell you one thing. They're a lot lighter in the car, but after a couple of kilometers of hiking, they're always heavy. They're, no matter which one you get, they're heavier than you wanted. They're always inconvenient to carry. But when you're there shooting and you're composing and you're looking and you're waiting and you're making adjustments to your camera, or you've got a beautiful scene set up for a portrait and you're just working the subject into the scene, being on a tripod, having that camera steady, making sure that you can shoot at half a second or a quarter of a second without any shaking, you're going to need a tripod. These are the 6 that I have. I don't suggest you get 6. It sounds arrogant and stupid just to say that I have 6 tripods, but now I've explained to you why. But I think you need 2. Maybe it's something bigger if you've got large format. Maybe it's like that metal Gitzo. Again, I like the metal Gitzo aluminum better than the carbon fiber. I would just buy a used one off eBay, the Gitzo. And then you kind of need this tabletop idea just to carry with you. Too convenient. You just need it all the time. And I've literally, sometimes that's the only tripod I get to bring along because there's no more space. Anyways, it's everything I know about tripods. Hope there was something useful there for you.